All right, today we're going to talk about the second part of how you're going to install your formations. The first way you're going to do it is obviously you're going to draw them up on the board with them, and then you're going to go through film with them, and then you're going to take them outside and you're actually going to walk them through all this stuff on the field. And we call this our formation recognition drill. So for mini camp, what we do is we install all of the one back formations, starting with spread, obviously, all of the one back formations on the board. Then I show it to them on film. Then I take them outside and I do this drill. Okay. On the next day of mini camp, we do all of the tight end sets. Okay. So we'll mix in the one back and tight end sets. And then the third day, we focus mainly on the two back sets, which means some of all three are going to overlap because there are two back with tight end, you know what I mean? Two tight end, like there's sets for everything. But that's kind of the flow that we go in just to keep it easy for the kids. And the first day, you don't want to overwhelm them. So we just do the one back stuff because that way the backfield doesn't change. The only thing that's changing is we can focus on our lining up correctly, which on the first day is the most important thing. Okay, so for our formation recognition drill, what you're going to want to do is you as the coach, you're going to want to stand on the goal line. Okay, so you're going to stand right here. You're going to have a wide receiver coach over here and a running back or wide receiver coach over here. Okay, you do not need the offensive line for this drill. You're going to take, if you have one of those tarps with the splits and everything that you can roll out and lay on it, you're going to want to put that here on the 5-yard line, or you can just, put down cones, put down 5 cones for the offensive line, right? And that's fine. And you're going to want to start with the ball in the middle of the field. Okay, so you're going to put a football on the 5-yard line right there. Then you're going to send out your first group. Okay, so if you're coaching a varsity football program, you may not know who those guys are. You can just use seniors. You can go by class, but you want to make sure you have every position group filled, obviously. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your, I'm going to change my color here. You're going to take, and now the kids are going to be facing you. So all of the kids are going to be facing this way, all the way down the field, and you're facing this way, looking at them, the coaches. So that would mean that if the kids are facing you, your X, we're going to line up in spread first. So remember, the X is max split, 17 yards from the ball. He's going to line up on the bottom of the numbers. Your Z is going to line up on his back foot, right? Splitting the difference. Let's go out here and do the Y. Your Y is going to line up on the bottom of the numbers over here. And your H is going to split the difference over here. Your quarterback is going to have his heels at 5 yards. Okay, so that's a very important coaching point. Make sure his heels are at 5. Reason for that is if and you can have your quarterback coach standing back there helping, or you can stand back there helping and have another coach in front of everything just so they can see it. But the reason you want your quarterback's heels at 5 is because you want him consistently lining up in the same place. And could be a foot difference between lining your toes up at 5 and your heels up at 5. Okay, so that's going to make a perfectly consistent snap. Let's say your center is 100% perfect and he hits the quarterback in the same spot every time, which we know is unrealistic, right? But let's say he does, right? If you back up a foot, what's going to happen to that snap? Well, the snap's going to go higher. So a snap that hit you in the belt is going to hit you in the belly button, right? What's going to happen if you take a foot closer to the center? Okay, the snap's going to get lower, right? And vice versa. So you just want to make sure that you're consistent there. And to start with, we line up the back in the first play that we install is inside zone to the right. So when we always line up our back in our pistol look. So he's going to line up with his toes just to start, and it can be 7 or 8, just depends on the kid. But we're going to line up his toes at 8, and he's going to line up 1 foot outside the quarterback's shoulder, so their shoulders are 1 foot apart, and his toes are going to be at 8 yards. So there's spread. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take a second group, and you're going to put your second group 15 yards behind them. Okay, just so you can tell them all apart, and that makes the spacing nice. So the first group's going to be on the 5-yard line. Your quarterback is going to be on the 10-yard line. And then the next group is going to be on the 20-yard line. So your next group is going to start. So their football is going to be right here. So there's their football. All right. which means you're going to have your second X. I'm going to use a different color. You're going to have your, not green, you're going to have your second X out here, and these are going to start to be your younger kids. Now, why are we doing this? Your younger kids are going to be behind the older kids because they can see them, right? They can line up right behind them and know that they're right, okay? So what that means is if your older guys are wrong, guess what your younger guys are going to do? Yeah, they're going to be wrong too, okay? Quarterback, tailback, and you're going to do this every 15 yards all the way down the field with however many groups that you have, okay? And H's and Z's, you may not know who those kids are day one, and you'll figure that out as you go through camp. You know, H and Z are pretty interchangeable positions, other than the fact the H should be more of a running back or a fullback type of guy, a flex type of guy, and your Z is going to be an actual receiver that you like, your jet sweep guy, things like that. But they may both be, running backs type kids, little scat back type kids. That's fine too. And then your outside guys are your tight end guys, your split end guys. Okay, so those guys are completely interchangeable. Okay, so for the most part, you're either going to have inside receivers, outside receivers, and running backs, right? So if they're a running back that can catch, or they're your stud, you're probably going to want to put them at H. If they're only a running back, put them at tailback, right? And so they're kind of interchangeable at first. And then as you go down the field, so you're going to have a group every 15 yards. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the ball, okay? So you're going to stay in spread, and you're going to take the ball, and you're going to move it with the first group. You're going to take the ball, and you're going to move it over to the hash. And then you're going to show, okay, where does everybody on the field move when we just run a play and end up on the hash? Well, what's going to change? Your X is going to go out and take his max split, which would be, if you have the dashes on the sideline, it's going to be on the outside edge of those dashes. Okay, so that's a good landmark to remember. But we teach them a yard from the sidelines, 1 to 3 yards from the sidelines, depending on the play. Okay, so if the ball's on the hash, where's the max split of the Y going to be? Okay, well, on a high school football field, 17 yards, he'd line up on the other hash. Okay, he's going to split the difference, right? He's going to split the difference, right? So they should all be moving the same amount in opposite directions. And then the kids behind him do the same thing. Then you're going to take the ball and you're going to move it over to the other hash. And then what's going to happen? Well, your X, the widest guy to that side of the field, if the ball is on this hash, he's going to line up here, right? So there's your X. Now your Y is going to be in his max split. You're going to have your H is going to bump out, right? And you're going to have your Z is going to bump in. Now, the splits are super important because you want to keep your throws consistent for the quarterback. And it does so much, like it really screws with the defense. Okay, so just pretend you're a corner, right? You're a corner and your job is that guy right there, right? Okay, look how much grass this kid's got to cover if you keep your splits at 17 yards. If this kid goes out and lines up all the way out here, okay, you have a corner here and a backer here, right? Well, watch this. And I'm just going through kind of why we do what we do here a little bit. Okay, so if he's there, where's the outside linebacker? He's in here somewhere. You just crammed all those kids in. Look how much room you have to win out here with your receivers, rushing the football, whatever, okay? So it's important, okay? In a zone scheme, you want to be able to run outside zone. You want to be able to run sweep, power read, things like that. So that's kind of how we do this. Then let's clear all this stuff out. So let's start over here. Okay, now you're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to put the ball back in the middle of the field, and we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time we're going to do it out of trips. So if you're in trips, quarterback's heels are at 5, tailback's still at 8, 7 to 8. Now your X, if we're going to go trips right, you're going to have them lined up in spread, and here's what you're going to do. So you're going to line them up in spread, and I'm just kind of show you how this works here. Don't mind the marks on the field because obviously my marker is just writing so fat that it looks like they're deeper, but you want his front foot on his back foot. So if we call trips right, so we're going to be in spread, we're going to go back to the middle of the field, and we're going to signal to them trips right. And you want to signal these things as you're doing it too. So say it, signal it, say it, signal it, repeat yourself over and over again so it gets pounded into their head. So if you go trips right, here's what's going to happen. He's going to bump out a little bit. And in trips right, the only guy that moves is over here like this. So then they're going to line up in trips right. Right? And that's what we'll look like. Then guess what you're going to do? Yep, you're going to move the ball over to the right hash, and they're going to adjust. Okay? Then you're going to move the ball over to the left hash, and they're going to adjust. And you're going to do this for trips. I'm going to tell you the order that we do them in. Spread, because this way only one person has to move each time. So spread, then trips, then big, and then tray. And yes, that's a tight end set, but we show it to them the first day for the X and the Y, just so they get remembering that it goes trips, big, tray in that order. So outside, middle, inside. Trips, big, tray. Okay. We don't run anything out of tray on the first day, but we do show them the formation just so they get the hang of the verbiage and things like that. So you're going to want to go through those, and then all of the things that you're going to install, Indy, outside or inside zone, you're going to install all your inside zone concepts. So you're going to go Indy, then you can go Detroit, Houston, and depends on what you're going to run. You can run LA. There's all these things that you can install on the first day. You're only going to pick the ones that fit your kids. Okay, so don't install something you're not going to run. If you know you're not a two-back football team, you don't need to be installing Detroit. You don't need to install dive read because you're not going to play with a fullback. So there's no point in even putting it in. Instead, install wrap LA because that makes more sense for your football program. Now, if you got an awesome fullback and you're going to be in two-back most of the time, then vice versa. Maybe you want to install Detroit and not LA, right? And Tampa's a great play for you. So those are just things you got to work out as you start to learn, go through this course and learn what your program is going to be about. I can tell you that I've coached at the biggest of big schools, like top 5 winningest programs in the United States of America, and I've coached all the way down to the smallest of small schools, who's also in the top 10 in the United States of America for all-time wins. The big difference is the number of kids that you have, obviously. So if I've been in that small school situation, and we've ran everything in this offense to success. We have never been shut out or shut down offensively ever in my entire coaching career. And that's because we did a good job of having the communication with the kids that we need to make sure they don't bust on assignments, that they don't jump off sides, that we don't get stupid penalties. All those little things that matter, in this offensive system, we've kind of eliminated those things. And this drill, I cannot express to you enough how important this drill is, because it gives the kids a visual on the playing field, not just on the board, not just on film. They're actually out there acting this out in person before they ever run a play. So if they don't get lined up right, it doesn't matter what play you call, it's not going to work. So for example, if let's just say the ball's on the hash here and we line up in spread, right? So quarterback, tailback, let's say this side does that, but then this guy goes out here and lines up like this, right? Which puts your Z somewhere like that. That's not going to work, right? That throw from here to there is 34 yards already, right? Splits are terrible, screws up all our run game because we keep our splits the way they are so we can get outside into space. We like running the ball here and here. We like running the ball here and here. We like running the ball here and here, okay? And if that guy goes out and screws up his alignment, it screws up other people's alignment. It messes with the defensive look we're going to get, and everything gets jacked up. So this drill is super important. I can't even explain to you how important this is. If they don't get this right, nothing else after it matters. So if you got to spend way more time than you thought you were going to have to in formation recognition drill, then that's just what you got to do. Okay, so what it would look like from an aerial view is, your coach, you're going to stand here, coach, and then you're going to have your rollout or whatever with the ball in the middle. You're going to have your receiver, quarterback, tailback, and you're going to do this. So the next group would be on the 20-yard line. The next group would be on the 35-yard line. Next group would be on the 50, and however many groups you have. So if you're at a Division I school, you're going to use the whole stinking thing, right? And you can do this with your freshmen too. Like if you're coaching varsity, your freshmen can be with you on these days for install, okay? Because you're not doing anything tricky. You're only installing the basics. So it's good that they get around those older guys, and then you can separate once you get into actually like, coaching football, because they're not going to run the same stuff you do to a T, because they won't, they're just younger. That's just the way it goes. Okay, you won't install as much with them. You're still teaching them the fundamentals of the game and the way you want them to play football. Because in a lot of big school situations or small school situations, they come from 5 different youth programs, and you don't know what they know and what they don't know. You know what I mean? But basically, you're going to do this all the way down the field as far as you have to. And that's it. Okay, so that's the formation recognition drill. Again, super important. If you got any questions, put them in the comments below. And let's go on to the next.